myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set them rewind. And 19 was the year I had to leave you, but now I'm seeing all the signs. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as...
Hey everyone, welcome back. It was pouring rain all night and this morning, but now all of a sudden the blue skies are coming out, and the sun, which I am not complaining about. So today I thought I would do some chores. I'm doing laundry and answer some of your questions. So thanks so much for sending in your questions. Feel free to send in more and I will do future Q&As. So let's get some laundry done so that we can get that chore over with.
But now I see what you teach. I do believe I always should have stayed. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't be too sure, but one day I'll be yours again. One day I'll be yours. Life lessons come one in a dozen. The other 11 get something from nothing. Life lessons come one in a dozen. The other 11 get something from nothing. Life lessons come one in a dozen. The other 11 get something from nothing. Life changes, just open the door. One thing's certain, I'll always be yours.
So I'll start with this question, which was basically, how do I feel about having a neighbor so close to me? She parks her vehicle there. In Calgary, of course, I was in a mobile home park and I had neighbors close by. And I was looking forward to, when I moved to the island, not being so close to neighbors. So in my original spot here on Vancouver Island, I did have space. I wasn't right next door to a neighbor. There was neighbors across the road. And my landlord was just through the woods, but not right next door. I couldn't see another house when I looked out of any of my windows. So how do I feel about that? Well, here's the thing, guys. As with so many things in life, it's very rare that you get everything that you want all at the same time. And while, yes, I would prefer not having a neighbor that close, the neighbors that I have here are awesome. They're amazing people, and we do our very best to just give each other privacy. And if that's the thing that I had to give up to get here, I think it was a good trade, particularly because, like I say, the neighbors that I have here are amazing. So we all are, I think, kind of introverts. And it's nice to be able to say hello to your neighbors and see them when you want to, but not always have them up in your business. And these aren't people that are like that. So this has actually been working out quite well. But if I had my 100% dream, no, I wouldn't have a neighbor that close. Having said that, having that neighbor that close and these other neighbors is working out just fine. Another question I got was, how do I go about making my home cozy? I think the question included the term hygge, Hygge, the term, the Scandinavian, I believe it is, term for making sort of your home your sanctuary and cozy and just very welcoming, particularly during the winter and the colder seasons. So how do I go about doing that? Yes, you're absolutely right. To the person who asked the question, having Sophie here makes a big difference because she's a snuggle bug, and today's her birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Sophie. And she goes a long way towards making my home, the tiny house, a very cozy place to live. I make sure that I double up my comforter in my duvets and put in flannel sheets so that when I crawl into bed, it's super cozy, because I like to turn the heat down to about 14 degrees Celsius, 13.5, 14 degrees Celsius at night. The furnace, doesn't come on a whole lot, sometimes not at all at night, but that's okay because I'm nice and cozy in this bed. And Sophie is usually snuggled up with me. That makes a big difference. I also like to have, oh, look at her. See, she's proving that she's just snuggly. Hi. I also like to have twinkle lights on, and I put those on in the morning. They are LED. They take maybe 2-3 watts total, and I have them in the living room and into the kitchen over my desk, and that helps in the mornings when it's still dark or on a gloomy rainy day. Having those there make a big difference in making the space feel cozy versus just dark. I have a number of battery operated candles that I put out. I have some actual wax candles as well, but the battery operated ones are so nice, and I like those, especially after work when I'm sitting on the couch with Sophie and we are watching something on YouTube. I also, let me show you. And also when I'm sitting here, I have this blanket. Now this has got a fleece lining and it's an electric blanket. So on particularly cold days, because I don't always like to have the furnace on when I'm just sitting in this space, I don't need to heat the whole house. I like to put that over my lap, then Sophie can snuggle in as well. And if it gets really cold, then I'll just plug it in. And finally, having my electric fireplace is actually really nice because it is also a little heater, and I can have it on when I am in this area with Sophie on my lap.
29 and I find myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set the rewind. And 19 was the year I had to leave you, but now I'm seeing all the signs. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't be too sure, but one day I'll be yours again. Life lessons come one in a dozen. The other 11 give something from nothing. I sit here looking for an answer. Maybe the biggest question was in the last chapter. You gave me the soul I have today. Without you I never could have moved away. But now I see what you teach. I do believe I always should have stayed. Yeah. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you.
So let's answer some of the other questions that I got. I just had to make some notes. So I got a couple of versions of this question. Am I planning to retire in the tiny house? Do I plan to stay here as I get older, into my 80s and things like that? So here's the thing, guys, and I've said this in other videos. I have been consistent. I reserve the right to change my mind. So as of right now, yes, the plan is to stay in the tiny house. I mean, I really can't see selling the tiny house at any point. You know, I can see passing it on to one of my kids, but no, the plan is to always live in a smaller space. Now, I have always wanted to build a cabin, maybe a log cabin, something like that. And the property that I end up buying down the road will include a project like that, because for me, that's just something I've always wanted to do, and I fully intend to do it. Hello. So while I may not stay in this tiny house for the rest of my life, I will always be in a small space, but I can't see moving out of here for a very long time. And certainly I'll still be in here when I retire. I anticipate, hopefully that's not too many years in the future, but it's a goal of mine to keep the tiny house, at least on my property. And if I do build a log cabin or a cabin of some sort, then the tiny house will stay as a guest suite or potentially a rental. But yeah, I definitely plan on staying in the tiny house. Let's see, what's next? Do I miss a dishwasher and a garbage disposal? No, not at all. When I had my townhouse, I ended up washing dishes by hand anyways, because especially once both kids were gone, the dishwasher ended up never getting full. If I waited till the dishwasher was full, I would have no dishes to use. So it just didn't make sense to me to use the dishwasher. No, I haven't missed either one of those things. I had a question about the park fees. Are the park fees high? Do they include utilities? Do I pay property taxes? Interestingly, when I lived in a mobile home park in Calgary, Alberta, I had my rent, and then I also paid a percentage of the total property taxes. It was an additional bill, very small, because there were so many units in there. However, that was part of the additional cost, which was odd. And back there, I also paid for all of my utilities except for water and sewer. Here is the same. I don't pay any property taxes. That's not the same. But my park rent is actually quite reasonable. It's going up in January or February a little bit, and that doesn't surprise me because the rent here is, like I say, quite low for the island, and everything has gotten so much more expensive. I'm sure that my landlord's utilities and maintenance and property taxes, everything has gone up. So I pay my rent, and that includes the sewer. I just have gray water, but the septic and water. I have electrical service, but it doesn't include my electrical bill. There's a separate meter, and I get my own hydro bill, and I pay my own for my own propane, because my furnace and my stove are on propane. So I have a great big, I don't know, I think it's 400 pound, 800 pound, anyways, great big pig. I think that's the term that they use, the great big propane tank out front. That's my responsibility. Obviously, my internet is my responsibility. If your next question is going to be, well, how much are your utilities? To get the propane tank filled, I think is about $280. My hydro, my electrical bill, my daily rate was anywhere from, I think it was 89 cents a day to about $1.05 a day. Now, keep in mind, I work from home, and I have my laptop on, my printer, my second monitor, my modem, all of those things are on every day of the week from 7 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. So that adds to my hydro expense. Hydro rates have gone up, and my latest bill was a little higher than that. But it is what it is. It's not like I can get away from that until I'm able to be more off-grid and have a solar system, maybe a wind turbine in the winter, that sort of thing. But because I work from home, I need to be connected to electrical because I have all of those things going all day when I'm working. And so I'm kind of tied to that until I retire. When I retire, I think I will need a lot less electricity and will definitely try to go more off-grid. Do I have any plans to finish the van build? Hell yeah! That was supposed to be this summer's expensive project. That was going to be it. I was going to put some panels, solar panels, or a solar panel on the roof, and put in a very straightforward electrical system, basically using a battery bank that the solar panel would charge, and then I would just run everything off of that battery bank, like the Vitamin or an EcoFlow, that sort of thing. Not separate components. I'm not sophisticated enough to figure that out, and I don't want to for something as simple as a van, especially since I'm not living in it. However, as you know, I ended up having to move this summer, and so all of my funds went to that. That was a very expensive thing, though a heck of a lot less expensive than moving from Calgary, Alberta, across the mountains and the ocean to Vancouver Island. It was still expensive. I needed to hire a handyman to help me with the heavy stuff. I needed the mover to move me, and so while it was less, quite a bit less than moving that distance, it was still expensive. And that's where my money went. So nothing got done on the van this summer. I barely got to use the van this summer. I didn't get to use it much last summer either because I was getting the house ready to move to the island. And that's been a little frustrating for me. It makes me a little sad. However, I'm not getting rid of the van. The van is sticking around, and I fully intend to do more exploring around the island and even the mainland in the van in future months and years, because this is such a beautiful part of the world, and I have seen such a small percentage of it. But every time I visit somewhere new, I am blown away by how incredibly beautiful this place is, and how fortunate, and I'm reminded at how fortunate I am to have been able to make this a reality, because I know that I'm privileged in so many ways to have been able to do that. So yeah, I do, Douglas, I do intend to finish the van out a little bit more, but there's not a whole lot more to do. Really, solar was going to be it, so I could get the Max Air fan running. And, you know, I might insulate a little bit more, but really that's about it. There's really not much more to do in the van. Right now, it's incredibly comfortable as is. It serves its purpose as a guest room, a guest house, when people come to visit, if they want to stay in the van. So yeah, there's really not much more to do. Solar was what I was planning on doing, and it's the one thing that I still have not been able to do because, well, life. I had a question about, is living in BC everything that I had hoped it would be? Yes, absolutely. I'll be 100% honest with you guys, because you know that's how I roll. I like to keep it real. There have been some very challenging times living here. The reality of moving away from my kids, my friends, sort of my group, my support network, really hit me last year, and you know, a couple times this year, as I've been going through certain things in my personal life. I have missed having that support network. So that's been a challenge, but it's getting better as I am making friends here, and also because I do have some friends, you know, that have homes in Victoria, which is a 3-hour drive away from me where I am now. And so I do get to see them. And of course, there's FaceTime, right? And I should also say it's expensive to live on Vancouver Island. There's a premium for everything. Because you're on an island, everything has to get shipped to the island. But is living here everything I hoped it would be? More than I hoped it would be. It is more beautiful. It is more peaceful. It is more laid back. I am happier and more grounded than I even thought I would be. And I thought all of those things would happen, would be a reality. But it's just, especially where I am now, so quiet and so peaceful and so beautiful. And I'm so lucky to be able to work from home so I can make a living while living my dream of being on Vancouver Island. There have been challenges, obviously, getting used to the winters here versus the winters back in Calgary has been a challenge. There was a question about that. Is it, easier to live in a warmer climate in the tiny house than a colder climate? I'll answer that question quite easily. It's the same. Winter is the same. You have unique challenges or things to deal with when you are in a rainy climate versus a snowy climate. And the difference basically, in Calgary, Alberta, you would get minus 30, minus 35, even colder with the wind chill Celsius in the winter. But you would have blue skies, brilliant sun. So you would also end up shoveling multiple times a day just to keep up with the snow when it did snow, because there would be so much snow. And sometimes, you worried about your pipes freezing. But that happened in sticks and bricks houses as well as a tiny house, right? Any home, when it's that cold in the winter, you have to think about that. You really thought about insulating your water pipes coming in and all of those considerations. Here, it doesn't get cold like that at all. Last winter we did have some snow, but it was still nothing. It was barely below freezing. But we got a lot of rain, and it was overcast and gray for several months in a row. And that was a challenge because I struggled that first winter with not seeing the sun and not having that sunshine because I was so used to having that sunshine. I didn't have to go out and shovel. I didn't have to scrape, except for that little period where it snowed. I wasn't sweeping snow off of the van, scraping the windshield, pulling snow off of the roof of the tiny house, shoveling, all of those things. But I had to deal with that. Canadians, human beings, but us Canadians, because I'm Canadian, we're pretty damn hardy, and we can deal with what Canadian winters throw at us, whether it is snow or rain. So I have bought one of those sad lamps that mimic sunlight, and I put it up on work days by my desk on the wall, and I have that on for a few hours in the morning, and that has really helped. Also, making sure that I get out even if it's raining or has been raining has really helped. Yes, I have rubber boots. I also bought a pair of Morel hikers that are waterproof, and I have a couple of good rain jackets. So I'm fine in the rain, and I still stand by my statement that you don't have to shovel rain, and I kind of prefer that. So far I am doing well in this climate, and being on Vancouver Island has surpassed my hopes and my expectations. Did I consider going the RV route versus the tiny house? What do I think about an RV versus a tiny house? I have made a couple of videos where I've discussed this, and I, again, in a warmer climate, it's much easier to live in an RV, because unless you're buying something that is hundreds of thousands of dollars, most RVs are not meant to be lived in year-round, and certainly not in really cold climates. And keep in mind that the first more than 3 years of my tiny house life was in Alberta, in Calgary, in a cold winter climate. It's framed out like a regular foundation-built tiny house. And so this tiny house has spray foam insulation. It was built by a builder in Alberta, and it is meant to survive, to thrive in cold Canadian snowy winters. I've never lived in an RV year-round. I've certainly not been in an RV in the middle of winter, but I know enough about them to know that they're not made with the types of materials that a tiny house is made with. And so when you're dealing with something that's got a lot of particle board, a lot of plastic, vinyl. It's not going to stand up as well to the cold climate, and it's going to struggle to keep you warm enough because there's just not enough insulation. There's not enough room for insulation. RVs are built to be light enough to be moved on a regular basis. And some tiny houses are as well. But tiny houses tend to be quite a bit heavier because they're made quite a bit differently. And they tend to be, certainly my house is, much better insulated than a fifth wheel would be. A fifth wheel might be cheaper, especially if you're buying used. But the new ones are also quite expensive. It's not uncommon to spend over 100,000, 150,000 and up Canadian on a RV, fifth wheel, camper type trailer, a big size one, especially one this size. And if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I want something that one looks like a regular house when I'm in it, has the type of insulation and framing that will allow it to withstand harsher climates. And 3 is built with materials that are more natural. And I'm not criticizing RVs, fifth wheels, or anything like that, and people who live in them, because again, especially if you're buying used, you can buy something that you can live in for a lot less than maybe building a tiny house, especially a bigger tiny house. And they're easier to move because they're lighter. What do you want from me? There was a question about amenities nearby and the tiny house community that I'm in. So the thing about the location that I'm in, and even the previous location here on the island, is there's no walking to a coffee shop or a store or anything like that. You're going to be driving. And where I am now, it's even a little farther to town than it was before. So I'm pretty much right in the middle of between Campbell River and Courtney Comox. And there is a little grocery store about 15 minutes away that I'll go to. But I normally will go into either Campbell River or Courtney Comox for my groceries. There's Walmart, Superstore, Save On there, Canadian Tire, Home Depot, all of the big stores that you might need. So there's not the amenities that I had when I lived in Calgary. You know what I miss the most? And I was thinking about this just yesterday because it was Friday and it's the end of the day and at the end of a very long, exhausting work week. And what I would really love is to go and get some takeout, some Indian or, sushi, vegan sushi, Chinese food, something like that. But there isn't a place around here. There's a pizza place not far, pizza truck, and they do make a great pizza and they have vegan cheese, which is awesome. But there really isn't a restaurant close by. Now, that saves me money, obviously, but I always allot myself a little bit in my budget for coffee or eating out if I want to each week. I like to, get some takeout once in a while. But there isn't a place like that. That's ironically the thing that I miss the most as far as amenities. The amenities are not as convenient, but that is a minor thing in my mind. If a priority for me had been being somewhere where I could walk to a store or a coffee shop, like in Calgary, I could do that, then I would never have chosen the locations that I chose here on the island. Somebody stole my seat when I went to get my clothes out of the dryer. It happens a lot. All right, so this video is already getting long. There are a few other questions that I want to answer. I'm going to leave those for the next video, but I do want to answer maybe my favorite question of all of the ones that I got when I asked for questions. And that was, what about a man? Do I hope to have a partner in the tiny house at some point, or will I continue to live a single life? There's the $1 million question, my friend. Here's the thing. I would definitely welcome having a partner if it's the right person, because my life is pretty great, right? It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. And to bring somebody into my world, particularly in such a small space, they're going to have to be pretty special. And I think that that applies to all of us, right? If we decide to bring somebody into our lives, they should be special. They should be bringing something into our world that makes it a better place. How do I put it? Am open to that, have been open, and will continue to be open. I would love to have somebody in my world that wanted the same sort of things, that was up for the same sort of adventures. Somebody to help me with the heavy lifting, both literally and figuratively, is always nice. But having said that, I'm fully happy and complete on my own. I just think that if I decide to bring that right person into my life, it's just going to make my world better, and I will make their world better. And I think that that is something that most of us aspire to. And I'm no different. And living in a tiny house certainly doesn't preclude having a partner. You just have to make sure that you've chosen the right person to bring into your tiny house. So guys, thank you so much for sending in those questions. They were awesome. There's a few that I didn't get to. Some of them were so close that I just sort of clumped them together. And again, I will answer the rest in the next Q&A. Continue to send them in. It's always awesome. Topics that you'd like me to make a video on, I always welcome that as well. And I know I'm going to get a comment or two about potentially or almost spilling my coffee as I'm having the conversation. I don't know what it is about these cups, because as you know, I'm Portuguese, I talk with my hands, and yet only twice in all of the videos that I have made have I actually spilled my coffee as I've been talking. I don't know why, but I'm going to warm this up because it's gotten cold. I'm going to then hop in the van now that my clothes are dry and folded, and go and get some groceries and finish up my chores while Sophie does what Sophie does best, which is live her best life on her birthday and just relax and nap. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're staying safe. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. I love you, and I'll see you next time.